Welcome to the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority meeting, and this will be broadcast on the Combined Authority's website and available for subsequent viewing. So can we ensure that members and officers assure that when they want to speak that they indicate in the chat box, of course, or by shaking the hands furiously, and I'll see them on their individual squares. Can we also ensure that when people do speak, they unmute their microphones, which we all fail time and time again to do? And finally, can we make certain that everyone has their phones switched to silent, please? There is an item 10, which contains an exempt appendix due to the information relating to the financial or business affairs of a person, and therefore, if anyone does wish to discuss the content of that appendix, Jill will guide us through what we need to do at the time. And because it is a virtual meeting, we need to confirm that members are present. So can I ask whether Councillor Polhill has been able to join the call? Okay, appears not at this moment.
Not as yet, Metro Mayor, we're still working on that.
Okay, Councillor Morgan, can you confirm?
Yeah, present, Chair.
Mayor Anderson?
Yeah, present, yeah. Sorry, it wouldn't unmute.
Councillor Baines?
Yeah, present, Chair.
And Councillor Hackett?
Present, Chair.
I'll be saying more about Councillor Hackett at the end. For non-voting members, Councillor Robinson, can you confirm you're on the call?
I certainly can. All present. Good afternoon.
Thanks. Okay. Before we do start the formalities of the meeting, it is with great sadness that we heard of the sudden passing of Paul Sanderson last week. And I know that Paul is probably best known for working with St Helens Council, which he did for 25 years as their strategic director for Place and as deputy chief executive. And he retired at the end of October last year, but continued to lead on a number of their key CA supported projects before he finally did leave the council in February. Paul did an awful lot of work with the Combined Authority, especially in recent years, but his contribution to St Helens and to the wider Liverpool City region goes back much further than that, and his contribution to the city region can't be overstated. We all share the shock and sadness of his former colleagues at St Helens, and our thoughts are also very much with his wife Angela, who colleagues will remember was the Combined Authority's first monitoring officer. And I think it'd only be appropriate to mark this with a minute's silence. So if I ask Jill will tell us when the minute's silence is concluded.
One minute, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on from that very sad note, onto the agenda. Item 1 is apologies for absence. Trudy?
Thank you, Metro Mayor. We've received apologies today from Councillor Mayer, Asif Hamid, Councillor Russ Bowden, Councillor Pauline Sinnott, Professor Dame Janet Beer, Lynn Morris, Gideon Benthoven, Jane Kennedy, Bob Spicer, Councillor Emily Spurrell and Councillor Laura Robertson-Collins. Thank you.
Are there any members who wish to indicate any further apologies for absence? No, okay. Item 2 are declarations of interest for members on this part of the agenda. Item 3 are the minutes of the previous meeting of the Combined Authority, which was held on the 5th of June 2020, and they're on pages 1 to 10. Can we ask for them minutes to be agreed, please?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. Item 4 are the updates from the last period between now and the meeting of the Combined Authority. And as I've said before, I'm proud of the way in which our city region has responded and really stepped up amid the current coronavirus crisis to support our communities. And we set up at the very beginning of the pandemic something called LCR Cares, which is our crowdfunding campaign to support our community and voluntary sector, and it's been demonstrably successful. So far we've raised and distributed over £1.5 million, and that's gone to 300 groups and supported 215,000 people during this period. And it was a deeply challenging time for our community and voluntary sector, and I'm proud that their contributions and the money from the CA, and also, it had to be said, from the National Emergencies Trust and some generous donors, including TJ Morris and Jamie Carragher, but most of all from ordinary people. But it's helped keep those countless community groups afloat so that they could continue to help other people, probably the most vulnerable in those communities when they needed it most. So to all of those people who've done such sterling work, from myself and the Mayor and the other leaders, thank you for all your fantastic work. In recent weeks, we've had confirmation from national government of certain funding allocations that are coming straight to the Combined Authority. For instance, £45 million, which has gone to our brownfield fund to help bring forward previously used land to deliver at least 3,000 new homes in the city region, which I think will be of huge interest and a great boost to us. There's a further £26 million for key strategic economic projects to continue contribute to the post-pandemic economic recovery, and we've put our plans in, as people know, to national government. And that's going to secure and generate much needed jobs for our people. And in addition to all this, we've got an extra £2 million in adult education budgets. We've done some fantastic work in the first period of this, and it's funding which will be targeted locally to help some of those people to upskill and reskill when they will need it most as well. So it's further evidence of the success of devolution in bringing extra funds to the city region to benefit local residents in all of the 6 districts of the city region. Something that's close to my heart, it has to be said, is around what we're doing on Headboat Lane. And whilst we've been responding to the coronavirus, we've also been looking at planning for future projects over the last few months, and this is a big step forward in our plans for a new Merseyrail station at Headboat Lane in Kirby. I know the area very, very well, and it's in dire need, as are lots of other areas throughout the city region, to be connected onto the network. So last week, we announced a further £3.3 million investment to move this onto the next stage of Network Rail's design processes. And I've spoken to the Secretary of State and to numerous ministers to try and push this further up the political agenda. But there'll be 500 car park and ride spaces and the bus interchange, and it'll all have step-free access. And of course, they will be accessible onto our new rolling stock, brand new trains that will come in over the next few months. Of course, slightly later than usual, but we all know that the pandemic has caused delays for us all. But it'll make a big difference for people in Kirby and show our commitment to expanding the network. And it's only another step towards what we want to do of creating that London-style integrated transport system that connects all 6 districts. And I suppose last Saturday we would have expected to gather and march, as we have done year after year, in our city centre to mark Liverpool and Liverpool City Region Pride and stand in solidarity with the LGBT plus communities. And Pride is a protest against intolerance and inequality, and that hasn't gone away, of course, even during this period. And we need to celebrate the progress society has made, but also recognise that there's still so much more that we need to do. And whilst we weren't physically able to march, it was great to be able to take part in the virtual march. It's a lot less strenuous, and you can stay dry because it's normally raining. But alongside many of the colleagues here, I think we've all sent a very clear message that our city region is an open, welcoming and inclusive place to live, to work and to visit. And I know this will come as great news to some of the leaders in the city region when we say we can't let this moment pass without congratulating the fantastic efforts of Liverpool FC for lifting the Premier League trophy last Wednesday. Of course, our congratulations go to the players, the managers and the staff on such a fantastic achievement. What I want to do though is, people will have seen today the announcement by the Chief Executive Officer, and I want to pay tribute to Peter Moore, who has announced that he will be standing down as the CEO of Liverpool FC after what has been a fantastically successful 3 years at the helm of the club. And Peter has been a brilliant advocate, not only for the football side of things, but also for the entire city region. And I'm proud of my relationship, both on a professional basis, but on a personal basis with Peter. He will be a very, very hard act to follow. I feel sorry for Bill in some ways that he's gonna have to fill the shoes of such a fantastic advocate, not just for the football club, but for our city region, who really did get it. And I want to say I wish Peter and his lovely wife Debbie all the best for their contribution, but also for him and his family to be reunited when he returns to America. And then on a less positive and a more somber note, finally, I'm sure that everyone is aware that the government has implemented some local lockdowns. Recently, we saw what's happened in Lancashire and Manchester, Greater Manchester, just last night. And for me, this has to be another warning to us all that the same situation could happen anywhere, including our own area. And I know that we've all been returning to something resembling normal life over the past few months, but that doesn't mean that we can let our guard down, be complacent about coronavirus. It hasn't gone away. It's still a very nasty and virulent disease, and it's still spreading, and we have to do everything that we can to stop that reinfection, and the fact that we're currently in a situation in which it's not going up as fast as other areas in the country shouldn't be a signal for everybody to let the guard down. I'd say for those who are travelling on public transport, please, it is mandatory to use face coverings. For those in public spaces, I'd say use them. And look, you don't need the government to tell you to do everything. Err on the side of caution, and let's stop the Liverpool City region or part of it being the next areas that are locked down because the infection rate has started to increase. And just on that note, again, we need to, don't we, pay tribute to our emergency services who've been fantastic throughout the period. And of course, our thoughts, as always, with those who've lost people during this terrible period with this absolutely awful pandemic. So with that said, we'll move on to the agenda item 5, and it's our first item of business of the day, which is to consider the Liverpool City Region Economic Recovery Plan. And the coronavirus has thrown up unprecedented challenges for us in virtually every sphere of our lives, you know, politically, socially, medically and economically. And such a large and complex set of challenges does need to be matched by a recovery plan on a similar scale. And so early on in the crisis, I said that there should be no return to business as usual, and I talked about building back better. And that's exactly what we've done. We've put forward a plan to reshape our region in a way that's kinder to each other and to the planet. It's fairer and more equal, and it means that we're ready to face our future than just looking to the past. And we know that we, as leaders in the city region, don't have the monopoly on all the good ideas, and that's why the recovery from the coronavirus has to be built from the bottom up. And we've reached out across the city region to our local councils and trade union leaders, to businesses and voluntary groups, to residents in each of our communities to help to formulate the response that we send back to government. And the result of that was Building Back Better, which is our plan for the economic recovery of the Liverpool City region. And Liverpool City Council have already submitted a fantastic and comprehensive plan. This is for the whole city region, and it's built on really strong foundations, because despite a decade of crushing funding cuts and austerity, our region has still managed to grow. In fact, we were the fastest growing city region in the country before the pandemic hit. But we do know that unemployment still is an issue for us, although it's reduced significantly, and we know that we have to diversify our economy, and therefore things like developing and recognising the strengths that we have in material science, infectious diseases and control, and sort of high performance computing. They're things for us to build on, but we can't do it on our own, and we need central government support. So that's why the recovery plan that we've developed identifies projects that are in the national interest, and it is investment from central government that we're asking for to deliver that vision. For the £1.4 billion we've asked for, it will unlock nearly £9 billion worth of investment in every single part of our city region. It will help build thousands of affordable homes, create 100,000 plus jobs, and help support a further 26,000 people into employment. So it is something that is oven ready. The government keeps on talking about that. We could start, these projects not within the next 12 months, but most of them within the next 12 weeks. And we do know that everything's not going to happen overnight, but I think with the leaders, I'm determined to make sure that it won't be a lack of effort that stops us coming back stronger and better from this coronavirus. We need to work in partnership with central government, and hopefully they'll look at what we've proposed to them and look favourably on some of those fantastic projects that we've already said could be kicked off very, very quickly with their assistance. I don't know whether any of the leaders want to contribute at this stage. I'll just leave a minute for anyone to indicate. Councillor Hackett already has. You can come in first, Pat.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks very much. Just to echo your comments about the difference this will make in the region and in our boroughs. The plan, for instance, would enable a major opportunity for Wirral to host a nationally significant centre of excellence in the city region through an open access national packaging innovation centre delivered in partnership, as we know, with Unilever to commercialise new materials and sustainable methods of packaging goods, which is supporting 12,000 jobs across the sector, which is great news. Also, Chair, the Maritime Knowledge Hub at Wirral Waters would capitalise on our status as a leading seaport by bringing together our universities alongside regional maritime business to deliver business cluster support, education, skills and training and investment in maritime technology. Can I say, Chair, this is also part of the massive transformation of Birkenhead with the left bank proposals in partnership with the Combined Authority that will see the biggest changes on a huge and significant scale since the days of Cllr. So the economic recovery plan and projects within it, as I say, will make a real difference to our boroughs, but particularly here on the Wirral. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Hackett. I think Councillor Morgan wanted to come in. You'll have to forgive me, but I can't see all of the tiles on my screen. There's only a couple that are coming up. So I think Graham did want to come in. Is that right, Graham?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thanks for that. Chair, you mentioned it before, welcome the report, but you mentioned a couple of Headbolt Lane rail station. Can I just put on the record thanks for your personal support and also the Combined Authority's financial support on this. It really will be a big addition, not just to Kirkby and Knowsley, but for the whole of the city region. It will also connect, once built, the new built town centre and also the industrial estate. But it's the first step as well in connecting West Lancs and Skelmersdale as well. So fantastic project, and can once again thank you for your support on that, Chair. But also I just welcome the report because the plan supports Knowsley's aspirations for our key sites and would enable the final piece of the Helens Garden Village. This will include a £76 million employment development, delivering over 450 jobs as part of the wider Superport strategy. Also, the delivery of the plan will drive forward our ambitious schemes to reinvigorate our town centres with a £132 million new commercial district for Highton Town Centre and accelerating the culture-led revival of Prescott with Shakespeare North Playhouse. So thanks you, Chair. I welcome the report and the fantastic document. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Morgan. The next person I'm bringing in, and the reason that I'm slowing it down a bit is for the cameras to catch up with us. So if you just allow a couple of seconds, Councillor Baines, for the camera to come onto you, I think you've indicated that you want to speak.
Thanks very much, Chair. First, can I just thank you for your very kind words at the start of the meeting about our former colleague Paul Sanderson. I echo everything you said, and I thank you for what you said. I welcome this recovery plan, Chair, and I want to thank you personally, as well as all the officers at the Combined Authority and our officers here in St Helens, who've made sure that our borough has played a full part in helping to put this excellent and deliverable plan together. I recommend that everyone read the full plan, but in terms of the projects, there is one of particular interest here in St Helens. As colleagues know, our borough is world renowned for glass manufacturing, and delivery of the plan would ensure that this continues to be the case by delivering Glass Futures, which would be the world's first openly accessible, commercially available, multidisciplinary glass melting facility with provision for research and development trials to decarbonise the UK glass industry. Myself and colleagues here in St Helens, Chair, are also very glad to see that, as well as supporting businesses and bringing forward exciting growth projects, this economic recovery plan has people at its heart. We simply must make the most of this opportunity to address long-standing and systemic health and social inequalities both within our region and the nation as a whole. So I fully endorse this plan's ask of government to give us the tools at a local level to help people with programmes of support to get people and our economy back on their feet stronger than before. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Baines. And I think we need to come up with something a bit snappier for what that project is. Glass Futures really doesn't do it justice. It is one of the most exciting projects nationally, and we need to be able to articulate just how innovative this approach is going to be and the benefits, not just to St Helens or to the city region, but to the planet. It's a bit like what Pat Hackett was saying around the Packaging Innovation Centre over on the Wirral. These are projects that are getting international acclaim and attention. I think it's Councillor Polehill who wants to come in next. If you can just allow the camera to catch up on you, Rob.
Thanks, Chair. Okay. Yeah, like the others, I thank you, Chair, for coordinating this plan. And in Halton, the plan includes an ambitious programme that would make the city region the foremost centre of hydrogen-powered economic growth in the UK, including repurposing the Port of Weston to create a viable inland hydrogen port, which would generate a sustainable supply of green hydrogen for use across industry, transport and domestic consumption. And as you know, hydrogen is becoming more and more to the forefront now, and so it's a big thing for the borough and big thing for the city region. The plan also supports our world-class digital innovation capability at Daresbury, enabling infrastructure works that would directly unlock 600,000 square feet of innovation development floor space at the enterprise zone. So it's really good news for us in Halton and for the wider borough, and I really support the plan. Great news with it. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, once again, Councillor Polehill, you've identified that we are certainly national leaders, but probably international leaders as well in some of the uses around hydrogen and innovation in every single aspect of hydrogen, both production and its applications to public transport, to trains, for instance, that are happening in Halton, to stuff around energy, which we're looking at with a project in St Helens. What Councillor Baines was talking about before with the Glass Futures project, that hopefully will be decarbonised by using hydrogen. It's just everything that we're doing really, I think, puts us ahead of anywhere else in the whole country. I think you wanted to come back, Rob.
Yeah, just to say, you may have seen the announcement by Alstom, which is making hydrogen chains there, and they've just announced that it's going to start in right now I think it's starting and taking on as well. So it's really starting to build up now, Chair.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think Mayor Anderson wanted to come in as well. Joe, if you just allow the camera to get to you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I just want to make a couple of comments, really, not commenting on the proposals from each of the districts, each of the boroughs, as exciting as that they are for everybody. I do just want to make it clear that I think the role that you've played, as well as the officers of the Combined Authority in putting forward the document, has been good. I've been on the calls with yourself and with officers when we presented the asks to central government. I think, what we've got to recognise here is that we haven't gone with a begging bowl and asked government just to give us money. We've gone with developments that can make a significant contribution, not just now post-COVID, but for the future of the whole city region. And I think, when we look at the comments made by Boris Johnson about levelling up, but when we look at the fact that the governments have asked for shovel-ready projects, the fact that we've been able to step up to the plate and not only provide the shovel-ready project, but provide ones that are backed up by a strong business case that show, tens of thousands of new jobs, new apprenticeships, new homes, a greener, cleaner environment, as you said. There is nothing there to be not liked. And the reality is that whether this government like it or not, we can't embark on another round of austerity It's failed. It failed miserably. We know, as city leaders and yourself as the Metro Mayor, that local authorities across the city region are now facing unprecedented, difficult financial times. And it's only by investing now that we can actually get ourselves out of the financial predicaments that we're in. And so I hope they listen, they respond. Obviously, we mightn't get everything we've asked for, but as you rightly said, what the investment gives the government is 10 times back that investment in terms of national insurance contributions, new jobs, income tax, and a better Northwest, but also a better Liverpool City region. So let's just keep the pressure on to make them listen to the strong economic case that the city region has put forward here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is precisely what you said. It's not a begging bowl. We've not asked for anything other than the government to support some investment that will give a return to UK PLC. And that, I think, that economic argument surely must win home in the end. The thing about our local authorities, we can't continue to impose the level of cuts on our local authorities and then look towards our local authorities as a nation to do the things that it's done over this pandemic period and not support them financially either. Both things are synergetic, and the government really does need to move away from the last decade of austerity to funding our local authorities properly. I think we'd all support that one, and of course that's nationally supported as well by the LGA. If there are no more comments, Trudy, could you just confirm that no one else has indicated to speak?
Yes, Metro Mayor, I can confirm there's no more wishes to speak.
Okay, can we then agree the recommendations as set out on page 19 of the report, please?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, on the next item, which is item 6, we're going to take both items 6 and 7 together as a presentation, but we will vote separately on them because item 6 and 7, one's a backwards look and one's a forwards look at Treasury management and what our strategy is. So John Fogarty is the Director of Corporate Services. I'll combine the reports and brief on them together, and then we'll consider them separately. So over to you, John, if you just wait a second for the camera.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, these reports deal with how finance officers manage the day-to-day financing of the Combined Authority. As you say, it's governed by rules which you set as a CA. They're contained within that Treasury management strategy, but it's very much based on the CITFA Code of Practice for Treasury Management and the Prudential Code, which I'm sure you'll be very familiar with from your own local authorities. As you say, the first report is backwards looking at 2019-20 and should provide assurance that those monies were invested and managed in line with the strategy that was set, the parameters that were set. And the second report just reaffirms the strategy for the current year that you agreed back in February's budget. There's certain changes within it. There are no changes to the investment strategy, but certain changes to borrowing, which accommodate the current year's capital programme, in particular changes to rolling stock and rolling stock finances. So that's all I propose to say. I'm obviously happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for John? It doesn't seem that anyone's indicated, John. So if that's the case, can we agree the recommendations for item 6 and they're set out on page 237, please?
Agreed.
Agreed.
And if we can then agree the recommendations for item 7, and they're set out on page 251, please.
Agreed.
Agreed, Chair.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 8, and this report can be found in the supplementary agenda pack, which was circulated separately, but it seeks a number of amendments to the Constitution which require unanimous approval, and Jill Cllr, who's our Managing Officer, will take us through this report.
Thank you, Mayor. The report is divided into 4 parts. The first part seeks delegations to officers to deal with receipt of money from central government. You'll see elsewhere on the agenda that the Combined Authority is having money channelled through it for brownfield purposes, for example. So as yet, there are some unknown quantities potentially of money going to come towards the Combined Authority over the coming months. So this delegation seeks to respond to receipt of those monies quickly. The second request in the report, or the second item in the report, is for transparency purposes, and it sets out the emergency decisions that have been taken over recent months by the executive officers in relation to both the Combined Authority and to Mersey Travel. The third item of the report seeks a delegation for officers, and that is in relation to planning consultations, and they will be responded to by officers on behalf of both the Combined Authority and Mersey Travel. The final part of the report seeks a delegation for officers to deal with administrative functions relating to its subsidiary companies, which are held solely by the Combined Authority. I hope you find these recommendations helpful, and please let me know if I can answer any questions.
So just for clarity, are there any objections to the recommendations as Jill has set out? And if not, I'll take silence as approval and we can move forward. Okay, it looks like, Jill, that's a unanimous decision. Item 9, therefore, is our SIF quarterly update, and the report can also be found in the supplementary agenda pack. It provides an update on the progress of those SIF projects, which fall under the portfolio of Councillor Hackett. So, Pat, do you want to run us through those SIF projects?
Thanks, Chair. The SIF paper before you presents an update on recent performance, current opportunities and the future funding environment. Given the economic challenge we're all facing, it couldn't be more important, of course. SIF performance before the pandemic was improving, Chair. We disbursed £95 million of local growth funds last financial year, 10% above our targets. Yet COVID-19 has arrived and we now face a 50% reduction in investment if we don't react. That's a massive amount. I think we all agree, Chair, that we must lobby government to review its deadlines, provide additional resources to projects, even though it's difficult, move money away from projects that cannot perform. We must do this carefully on a case-by-case basis. It is a challenge, but it can show how well we can work together on this patch. Officers are already working on all 3 areas. It's not easy. There's a lot of history, we know that, but they are working as hard as they can on this and liaising with people. As for current opportunities, the paper sets out our prioritised approach on projects for the Getting Building Fund. This is a £26 million for projects that must deliver as quickly as possible. I note that the National Packaging Innovation Centre, which I mentioned earlier, which is on my patch, is a crucial priority. We must continue to lobby government to support it. The third part of the paper, Chair, is about the future SIF environment. Our forecast is for just over £1 billion in devolved funding over the next 3 years, which shows us the real benefit of having our combined authority, does it not? However, beneath these figures, there is another picture I would like to share. Although the forecast shows a big number, not enough is truly devolved or available now. But we need funding right now to launch our recovery plan, do we not? So the paper recommends, Chair, making up to £6 million of development funding available and taking a risk on up to £30 million of new projects whilst we wait for other funds. Please note the detailed recommendations at the end of the report, and I recommend this paper to you. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Hackett. I think quite clearly what we're trying to do is to sustain as many businesses and therefore jobs as we possibly can, try to secure the future and be innovative with the funding that we've already got to put that into projects where we can accelerate delivery. And actually the government are talking the same language. They're talking about acceleration now of delivery. We were already ahead of the game. And hopefully we'll see them recognised through the recommendations once again that they get a bigger bang for the buck if they work through us, because we are more nimble and we know what is in the interest of our areas better than national government does. With that said, are there any questions for anyone? And Trudy, has anybody indicated?
Councillor Polhill, Metro Mayor.
Okay, Rob, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. I welcome this, Mr Mayor. I think we fully support the Liverpool City Region's economic recovery plan. The themes and priority actions reflect the key actions that we ourselves in Halton have already been working on over the last few months. Despite lockdown, we are still delivering major infrastructure schemes, for example, the Runcorn Station Quarter development and the Witness Loops Access Road. We've also been progressing the next phases of the development at Skytech Daresbury, with Project Violet and Hartree 4 projects. At the multimodal gateway in Witness, despite the economic slowdown, we've worked hard to land new investment with new jobs, and we'll be announcing that in the next few months. In Anaspor, Runcorn, we are on with transforming the area into a business park fit for the 21st century and with upgraded premises with a better business environment for everyone. We've seen growth interest in the Witness waterfront as a centre of logistics and distribution. To echo the Liverpool City Region's recovery plan, we are delivering a people-focused recovery. That is why the council has redeployed staff to support the council's Halton people into jobs and adult learning services who have been supporting our residents stay in work and to find work. Equally, our business support and business rates teams have been working tirelessly, not only to administer business grant schemes, but also to provide practical business advice to support organisations emerging from lockdown. We could have been reactive in our approach, but we have used the Borough's Mersey Gateway Regeneration Plan with its key strategic economic impact areas as the framework and catalyst to enable Halton and the city region to build back better. So welcome the report, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Some really exciting proposals in Halton. Obviously, the station quarter looks like it could be a catalyst for huge further inward investment into the borough, and we're very pleased to be working in partnership with Halton on those issues. With that said, I don't think there's anybody else that I can see. Okay, can we therefore agree the recommendations as set out on page 9 of the supplementary agenda, please?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed.
10 is it's again SIF, and Rob's going to talk us through it, but it's you'll see in the supplementary agenda pack the report around what's called KINDRED, and it's a social investment vehicle, but it's probably one of those projects where I've had the most positive feedback possibly of nearly anything else that we've done. So I'll hand over to Pat to explain. You're on mute, Pat.
We're always doing that, aren't we? Thanks, Chair. As I said, While it was muted, KINDRED is all about community-led growth. It is a collaboration amongst the Combined Authority as funder, Power to Change as co-funder and expert advisor, and communities across the Liverpool City region. We are, Chair, providing £5.5 million in total, and we've already provided some of this as pre-development funding. It is, as you say, very exciting, very original and very unique. And the idea is to fund socially trading organisations so that they can employ local people, build community wealth and solve problems in their local community. Over time, the funding will be repaid and recycled from one project to the next. And we can expect other funders to invest in KINDRED over the coming years. It's no surprise, Chair, with an idea of this quality, that the value for money to us is very high, with a total impact of £20 million for our £5.5 million investment. As you said before, we are nimble. And of course, last but not least, we are a national leader in this field. And as somebody, can I just say as well, as somebody who's worked in a community centre in my ward on the Wirral in New Brighton for the last 40 odd years, yeah, I know the importance of keeping things local and doing things local. It's not a new thing, as some people seem to think, but this in particular is unique and will change things locally. And it's great to see the CA leading from the front in this. Chair, I recommend this vitally important project as being by the community for the community, and we're asked to approve it subject, of course, to future funding. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Pat. I think we're really looking forward to working with Power to Change. I know on the Wirral there's some fantastic work that you've already done on community wealth building, and the piece of the jigsaw that I think has been over the years least funded are socially trading organisations, and this is a massive opportunity for them now really to capitalise on that bright future, even in a post-COVID and a post-Brexit world that we would like to map out for the city region with the help of, as I say, funding from national government. But with that said, any questions for Pat? Okay, can we agree the recommendations are set out on page 35 of the supplementary agenda, please?
Agreed.
Agreed, Chair.
Okay, we're on to item 11, which is public question time, and we've not had any public questions received within the timescales, and the same goes for item 12, which is petitions and statements. We haven't had any, but before we do move on to the rest of the business, which is in part 2, I just want to take a couple of seconds really to pay tribute to Councillor Hackett, who's just given us those reports. He is retiring as the leader of Wirral Council, and I've known Pat for many, many years, and he's been leader of the council for just over a year, but was elected to Wirral Council way back in 1994 and then returned in 2011. But within a few years, he became involved in the work of the Employment and Skills Board for the city region, and has vast experience in those sorts of issues. As he said, he works in a community centre and understands why skilling and upskilling are so important. But as part of the Employment and Skills Board, he was passionate about the importance of good, well-paid jobs, and that's really what our recovery plan is all about. It's for the residents of our city region to get good, well-paid jobs, and that really shines through in everything that Pat is about. You know, going back 10 years or so, he drove much of the regeneration and revitalisation of New Brighton, and he's worked hard to ensure that local people and businesses benefit from the economic growth there. And we were mentioning, I think it was off air, every one of us loves going to New Brighton. I picked it as my favourite place because of the memories of when you were a kid. There weren't things such as holidays abroad. well, I suppose it was abroad because I lived in Kirby and I used to go to New Brighton and that was over the water. But New Brighton is a great example of where regeneration can benefit local people and hopefully end up with the economic growth for the wider peninsula around Wirral. But he has also brought his fresh approach to the more recent role he's had as the lead for inclusive economy and the third sector, and he knows a little bit about both of those things, but he also understands the importance of regeneration and changing local people's lives for the better, and that's essentially what we're trying to do as a combined authority. So at this point, I'd normally have presented Pat with something, a gift to celebrate his achievements in public office. But we do, Pat, honestly wish you all the very best in your decision to retire. Sadly, I can't pass you anything today, but a gift will be on its way to you, Pat, at some stage. And just before I do bring it in, I'd like to offer the opportunity for any of the leaders who want to also add some kind words as a tribute to you, because I think you deserve it.
So, Mayor, you've got Councillor Morgan indicating he wishes to speak.
Okay, Councillor Morgan first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think you've covered everything there, but I'd just like to say a few words. And you're right, you look at Pat's history, you know, employments and skills, and I can remember you working very closely with ex-leader of the council in Knowsley, Ronnie Round, going back in the 90s. And Pat, what you demonstrated is to make difference for the people, not just for the people in the Wirral, that you've done an absolutely fantastic job. And Steve mentioned about the rejuvenation of New Brighton, which is a fantastic achievement, what you've done there. But in the short amount of time that you've been on the Combined Authority, what a difference you've made. And it was all about your drive and passion for the community, and not just the community, the Wirral, the community, the whole of Merseyside, because you've seen some of the reports that you've delivered today and in the past, and they'll be there for a long time, Pat. You've made a hell of a difference to a lot of people, as I say, not just in the Wirral, but the whole of the Merseyside area. So, Pat, it's been a privilege and an honour to know you and work with you over the years, and good luck for the future. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Graham. Tracy, I don't know whether anyone else is coming in.
Yeah,
Steve,
you've got all of them.
I haven't got a hand, but just to say, nothing that you've said, Steve, or you, Graham, we disagree with. Just wish you all the best, Pat. You know, as Graham said, you've been a breath of fresh air, and it's been a privilege to work alongside you, mate. So you take care, enjoy your retirement. You go with our best wishes, and keep in touch.
Thanks, Joe.
You're on mute, Steve.
I did that on purpose because I didn't want Pat to be the only one who failed. That just shows you the camaraderie that we've got within the leadership. Anybody else?
Councillor Polhill.
Come on, Rob.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Steve. As I say, you've said it all, and Joe said it all, and Graham as well, and I don't want to echo everyone else says, but been fantastic working with you, Pat. Pleasure to know you as well. I love the way you speed through your reports. You'll do me anytime, you know what I mean? You get through them really good. And I wish you all the very best, you and your family, for the future. And obviously, keep in touch, mate. Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thanks a lot for that.
Councillor Baines.
Oh, David. Okay. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Chair. Myself and Pat were both elected leaders last year at the same time. It was good not being the only newbie coming onto the CA 12 months ago, so it was good. I've always found you to be a really decent bloke who is on top of the detail, but you always do it with a smile and with passion as well. So it's been really great getting to know you, and we're going to miss you. So just all the best to you and your family.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, David.
I won't be opening this, but it'll be something like it for later on. I don't know whether you can see that. Can you see that, Pat?
Liverpool on it, great.
See what it says, though?
Champions, yeah. Brilliant.
So I'll drink to you later tonight, Pat. Thanks very much for all your contributions to the Combined Authority, and genuinely a hard act to follow. I know Jan, and I know she's got the same sort of interest that you've got, and community wealth building will continue to flourish, I'm certain, under your successor. But thanks very much, mate.
Can I just say a couple of words, if you don't mind? First of all, can I say I first got elected in 1994, and it only seems like yesterday. 26 years, it flies by the time. Again, and can I thank you all as well for your kind words. I'm going to say I've thoroughly enjoyed myself on the CA and the support I've received from yourself, Steve, officers and leaders across the city region. So thank you. And it's been an honour to lead on the inclusive economy and third sector, a huge portfolio. And under that portfolio, as we heard today, with the economic recovery plan, about the length and breadth of projects across the city region that will obviously transform those boroughs. And I certainly know from my own local authority that the partnership with the Combined Authority is invaluable to truly make that transformational change that Wirral has been crying out for years, really has. And it's great to see things actually happening now on the ground. And I think also, Steve, that relationship you've got with the Wirral, it certainly has come on leaps and bounds in a short time. And I think that's invaluable. And I also think the relationships across the city region are really good, and I think the leaders would agree with me on that. And it's vital, is it not, to the success of the Combined Authority as it moves forward post-COVID and the challenges ahead. And I'm sure, as you alluded, with my successor, Janess, as leader, will carry on in the same tradition. And she has a wealth of experience in a number of fields, as you've mentioned. So thank you, Steve, for your kindness as they retire from the front line to a more sedate way of doing things. I am, as you rightly said, I'm going back helping at the Brighton Community Centre, where I've been involved for the last 40 years and where I started out, to be honest with you, back to my community roots. But I'd just like to say, you've been really supportive, very easy to get on with. And you have that friendly approach, which really helps, especially when somebody comes onto something and it's new. It makes people settle into it quite easily, and I'm sure David Baines will say the same over this last year. So thank you to everyone. A huge thank to all the leaders for all their kind words, and good luck in the years ahead. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Pat. And in your normal style, you quite rightly identified your thanks to the officers, and we often forget about how pivotal the officers are to our individual and collective successes. So yeah, I echo those comments. Thanks for that. Okay then, so I think on the screen it's got the next meeting will be held on the 25th of September 2020. And what we're going to do is draw that part to the close, because it's recommended that due to the content of the next report, that it's considered as exempt and in the absence of the press and public. So I therefore need to ask for somebody to move this resolution for the reasons set out in the agenda.
Move that, Chair.
Okay, the Combined Authority then has agreed that the next item will be considered in the absence of the press and public due to the information that it contains. So can I ask Councillor Robinson, Deputy Portfolio Holders, Associate Members and Mayoral Advisors that they now leave the meeting, and we'll allow a little while for that to happen. The minutes of what is agreed will be published in the usual way in due course, and our meeting on the 25th of September at 1 o'clock. So the webcast will now cease.